what is your opinion on why it's so important this time around? We're talking about a historic election.
Thank you so much. So I think the election is very important because we must let democracy progress not only in Southeast Asia but elsewhere globally. However, there has been some concerns, and I've written about this, and it seems to be an inclusive void because one of the key political parties who is inseparable from Bangladesh's freedom and from the 1971 Liberation War, they have been suspended. So we have heard Professor Dr. Mohammed Yunus, who has come to Chatham House in London, and in his keynote speech, he has made this point that they have been suspended for the moment, and it is really a void. But of course, if that is the will of the people and they're voting what used to be between the two Begums, as they used to say, now it is between the two Rahmans. So either one of them will form the next government, and we have also seen how the polarization of this election is taking place. And I would like to point out that, of course, the Jamaat-e-Islami is a very strong political force in Bangladesh, and they command a lot of support. But when it comes to women's rights, especially, we have seen recent interviews and statements where there has been concerns raised for the safety of women, the working of women, because in Bangladesh, if you see, especially from a diaspora point of view, the key the export from Bangladesh, where Bangladesh is recognized globally as a key player, is the ready-made garments, and women form the backbone of that industry. So if there is any restrictions to their workings, or even the fact that that party or its like as a whole, they have not fielded one single woman candidate in the election. So of course there is some concerns about this election.
Of course, and now we've heard reports of 16 political activists killed since elections were initially announced. How does this violence compare to previous electoral periods, and what does it tell us about opposition dynamics in this current election?
So I've heard your previous speaker, and I think the gentleman there made a valid point of mob violence. So these 18 months the caretaker government is in power, there has been a significant erosion of law and order, accountability, and the general establishment as the rule of law. So we have seen, not only as the elections have announced, as you mentioned, not only 16, but probably that is a very underrated number. But if we even go with that, we have to take everything into perspective. So the violence actually started right after, the 5th of August, and it has been continuing. Sometimes we see surges, sometimes not. And if I may use this platform to say that at the receiving end, the lion's share of that are, people who are Bangladeshi citizens, but identify with the minority religion. And when I say minority, it is not only the Hindus, Buddhists, Christians, or, the Muslims. It is anybody who is, trying to express their freedom or their wish. They are also being targeted. So we have to look at the larger context and then analyze and take an educated guess of the subject. So the violence is, of course, something which is alarming, and I'm sure the Bangladesh law enforcement agencies will try to look into it, but it is something of a great concern.
Of course. Now, I want to ask you, as a political analyst who has studied extensively Bangladesh's situation, the opposition movements, how genuine is the political competition we're seeing today?
So the competition is quite fierce, and we have seen that after Tariq Rahman has returned from London again back to Bangladesh, and they have announced that they will not form an unity government if there depends how much seats they get in the national parliament, and they will not form an alliance with the Jamaat-e-Islami. So we can definitely see that there has been a strong competition. And I would like to also raise or ask, about the Students' Party, because if you see on the Monsoon Revolution, the students led the revolution, but now they have again joined a coalition with the Jamaat-e-Islami, which carries a lot of baggage, not only from 1971, but after that as well. So they are identified as somebody, closely aligned with the Pakistani state. I would also like to point out that today is the 12th of February. So if we go back in time, and on the 21st of February, which is just the mirror opposite number of today, it was the international, the mother language, the revolution, which actually started the Bengali cultural identity. So the land of Bengal, both east and west, is a very plural and diverse, with people strong cultural values. So a monolithic concept of one unit, one language, which the Pakistanis imposed and which resulted in the language revolution, and then so on and so forth, is something which is very alien. And I'm very hopeful that the democratic and the secular spirit of the country will uphold.
And now going back to the role of intellectuals, I know you've written a lot about this, so I want to ask you about it. I think it's a very interesting concept here. What role do you think that writers, that academics and thinkers have played in the entire situation when it comes to Bangladesh politics themselves?
So I think, again, writers, academics, and not only writers, academics, but people associated with performing arts, culture, they are quite vocal, and they have enjoyed traditional freedom to express their opinion, be it right or wrong, or whichever political view they hold. But recently we have seen, and you can probably show in your reports, two of the major newspapers in Bangladesh, one English, the Daily Star, and the Bengali Prathamal, and both of these were also very critical of the Sheikh Hasina regime. So not as they were, party to the government. Their offices were ransacked, set on fire. Actually, some women journalists had to be rescued by the army, or they would have risked, probably potential death by fire. Then the two of the key cultural institutions of Bangladesh, Udichi and Chayanot, again, very forefront at the Bengali cultural identity. They have been attacked and ransacked. So, of course, the role of the intellectual is, and the cultural activities is very critical to the Bengali identity and the society.
And now, I know that you're in London, so for British Bangladeshis voting overseas for the first time, what does this moment represent? How engaged is the UK diaspora, and when it comes to this, and what influence do they have on this election?
So I've done some numbers. In the last 2021 census, around 650,000 adults, individuals identified as British Bangladeshis. However, the total diaspora of Bangladeshis living outside Bangladesh who are eligible to vote is 127 million. So that number, if you see, and again, this is from the Bangladesh High Commission, the official figure is that only 32,000 people have registered, are eligible to vote, but they haven't voted yet. So I see there is a significant lack of enthusiasm, and probably it could have been more should the government or the interim government and their apparatus had encouraged. And also there is one other technical hurdle, because you have to provide a lot of documentation like this national identity document. There's some other electronic documents. So, and a lot of the diaspora, if you have to remember, who have come to England are during, the early 1950s and 60s. So they are probably not that tech savvy. So I think there was a gap in the reach out, and the younger generation, of course, they might have, but I feel there is a certain, lag, and that's why the numbers might struggle, especially in England, where I can report from.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us. Thank you for this wonderful insight